Welcome back to another video of my series YouTube for Beginners, where I tackle common questions that people have when they're starting off on YouTube. Today, the question that I'm going to tackle is, how often should I upload my videos? I've worked with hundreds of creators from every genre, every walk of life, everything possible, and this has always been a common question. The reason why is because theoretically, you can upload as much as possible, accumulate as much views as possible. But the question is, how often should you upload? And why does it make a difference when it comes to getting viewership on the platform? If you're new here, remember to subscribe to my channel to catch the rest of this series and like this video if you enjoyed the content. For the most part, there is a common consensus that the more you upload, the better it is. But the first thing that I really want to address when it comes to how often you upload is really finding the sweet spot. And I'm not just talking or playing games here, but what I actually mean is you need to break it down to science and see how much time it takes for you to make good content and still be able to maintain that sense of flexibility and that sense of schedule. Schedule is very important when it comes to upload frequency because you are cultivating and nurturing your relationship with the audience. If you tell them that you're going to be uploading 3 to 5 times a week or 4 times a week, but after a few weeks your quality content just goes down the drain, you have essentially wasted kind of that rapport that you've done, or you've affected the way that YouTube's algorithm perceives you. Therefore, the first point has to do with finding the sweet spot. Finding the balance of where you are making quality content, but where you are also making quantity, meaning that you're hitting a decent amount of viewership per week. What you don't want to do is upload sporadically or upload frequently for a certain amount of time and then afterwards just die off, because firstly, that's not good for the audience because the audience is going to see that inconsistency, and the second thing is that YouTube is also going to see that break that you take. That's why usually for YouTube growth perspective, the last thing you want to do is stop your consistent uploads. One example I always tell my clients is that when you stop uploading, the video that would normally appear on that day during that time when the video is live, it will be replaced with another person who is in the same lineage. Because YouTube is not going to care whether or not you started or stopped. YouTube is just going to keep recommending content because they want people to stay on the platform for as long as possible. The second factor you want to think about when it comes to upload frequency is the demographics. I love talking about demographics because it's different for every client, and if you're able to provide value, then they will be able to have actionable advice for whatever the demographics is. Understanding your demographics when it comes to your upload frequency isn't complicated. You need to think about first, who are you targeting? Like, what is the age group or their gender, if that's relevant as well, kind of what their daily habits are. And then afterwards, you need to see what amount of videos they have capacity to watch every week. For example, generally, when it comes to the age group that binge watches the most, that is at around the 15 to 25 mark or the 26 to 35. I think 35 is already a bit less, but that is the usual age range when it comes to binge watching, which is the reason why the gaming niche on YouTube, people upload so frequently because kids have a lot of time and they're able to watch a lot of content. Now, when you look at another demographic, like an older demographic, you need to take into consideration how much time they have when it comes to watching their content. Once you look at how much time they have, the next thing is also to look at which days of the week can work when it comes to the age demographic. Usually the older the audience, you want to have it for near the end of the week or maybe like at the end of the day at least. And another tip I can also give you is that the stay-at-home parents demographic actually is very frequent as well. And in fact, the age group 35 plus and 55 plus, they're not the biggest audience on YouTube, but according to YouTube last year, they are the fastest growing demographic on YouTube. So that's also something to keep in mind if you want to cater to building that relationship with your potential audience and in terms of expanding your reach by YouTube recommending more of your content because of your upload frequency. Of course, let me know in the comment section below what you think, and my question for this video today is, how often do you upload when it comes to YouTube per week? The final factor I want to talk about has to do with understanding what type of content there is. There is a lot of content on YouTube, a lot of different genres, so it is hard to categorize, but what I tell my clients when it comes to the type of content that they do is there is evergreen content, and there's also time-sensitive, trending, slash relevant content. Identifying those two types of content is integral in terms of deciding how often you upload. Let me get into what these are first. Evergreen content has to do with content that is not time sensitive. Usually it is content that can be used and can be watched for at least a few weeks to a few months even. Now, on the other hand, we have time sensitive content, relevant content, which is only applicable for that certain time. One video I made last time talking about June features or something about like a month, that is an example of how that is more relevant content and that is focusing on having people see that specifically at that time. The difference is that evergreen content can stay a long time. Relevant content can fall to the wayside because it's not relevant anymore in the YouTube space. Now, why is that important when it comes to the frequency of upload? It's because first, you need to identify what type of content that you want to do, what type of content you do better or can do more of, evergreen or relevant content. Because if you're able to identify that, that will also give you some insight in terms of how often you upload. Let's say if you're going to upload a video that is more relevant than evergreen, you want to make sure that once that video is uploaded, you can have an evergreen video that comes after, just so that even if that video is not gaining traction anymore, you will still be able to have evergreen content. I also talk about these two types of content because of the fact that essentially you want to alternate between these two, and through that alternating, you will be able to identify what is the best schedule and what is the best upload frequency. If you just keep doing relevant content, you're not going to have that kind of longevity, that kind of ongoing momentum that you can gain from evergreen. But if you just do evergreen content, when YouTube recommends your content, it's way more competitive because there's less likelihood people want to click on it because it is relevant. Therefore, you want to have a balance of both, and that's why by having that balance, you would also be able to identify what your frequency of upload is. So I'm going to use MKB HD here as an example in terms of the difference between evergreen content and relevant content. So you can see when we look at his latest videos, he does, and just for a reminder here, he does a lot of unboxing videos for tech. He's been on YouTube for over 10 years and he's been doing tech reviews ever since. He's diversified a lot of his content by now, but overall it's still usually that type of content. Now when we look at the type of content that he does here, we can see, for example, Surface Duo, unboxing, Nope 20, impressions, review, dope tech. So let's say if we were to categorize his content, he has unboxing videos, impressions, and also the dope tech. Now, usually when it comes to impressions and unboxing, those are more relevant content because when a new technology is released, a new device is released, all the reviewers jump on that as soon as possible. So that is an example of how a new product is released, it's relevant, so he tackles that topic. Now, if we look at the reviews is an example of where that's lesser so. And the reason why it's less is because the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra review, this video could be playing for people for a long time. Just like an iPhone review video. People are going to be buying that iPhone for at least a few months, close to a year. And even after a new one is released, there are people who also want to buy the previous one as well. So that's why the review video is an example of a balance between those two, where it has to do with, it is kind of relevant, but he does not do these immediately. He takes his time, he reviews the product, and then he comes out with the episode. Now the final series that we have for him is Dope Tech, and I think Dope Tech is a great example of evergreen content. Dope Tech, usually the way that it is, the way that the topics that he does, they are not time sensitive. the biggest ultra-wide monitor, Dope Tech, Boston Dynamics, Robot Dog. A lot of these things, they can be a sustainable driver for views, watch time, subscribers for a long time to come. That's one of the reasons why these series exist. I can't say for sure, obviously, but it's one of the reasons why that has that flexibility, because it is evergreen in that sense, where he would be able to talk about these videos, talk about these products, and in the video, it will still be relevant for quite an amount of time. Tech is kind of interesting because of the fact that, things can still become obsolete, but overall, it has that ability where there is relevant content and there's also evergreen content. You've reached the end of this video. Let me know what you think in terms of upload frequency and kind of the topics that I talked about today. If you want to see more, click on these end screen cards here so you can see more in terms of what to learn for YouTube for beginners, or just to watch other content that is relevant on my channel. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye.